Hi, everybody. This is Tommy from the Close to Home Collective, and today I am going to interview this week's open mic featured artist brought to you by, of course, Old Capital Books. And this week's artist is our friend No Existo. How are you?
Good. I'm really happy to be here with you, and I'm super excited about getting to perform with you guys on Friday.
We're excited as well. So, for my first question, this is something I've asked all our artists. How has this whole situation affected, your art and how you share it? And yeah, what does that look like for you?
Well, that's a good question. I think that it's been for everyone, like a really weird, kind of disoriented time because it's like there's this weird combination of having a lot of stress and anxiety, but a lot of boredom at the same time. So in a way, I guess it's been kind of good for creative pursuits. Like that's a good outlet. But I'm also a student teacher with UCSC, so I've been kind of dealing with that with my students, and this has been an opportunity to kind of share like my secret identity with them, like bring it more into the classroom and like share songs to try to get them to feel okay being vulnerable and sharing their secret identities and their secret talents. So it's been, I think, like all around the world, and for sure like in my personal life, it's a very transformative time in a lot of ways. Like it's a painful transformation, but a good one.
Hmm. And is that a tough crowd, the students? That sounds I
You
would be
know,
terrified.
I am and I have been, but they're a lot more compassionate than I think. I think it's like they're high schoolers,
Mm.
but especially with little kids, they're really honest and it's never personal. But they're actually really sweet and really supportive. And, I have good relationships with them, so that probably helps. But the best part is like getting them to see like I'm more than just a person in the classroom and getting them to show me that they're more than just a student in my English class.
Wow, that's invaluable. I mean, that's something they can probably take with them for the rest of their life. You'll be one of the teachers they talk about. How does
Oh,
that feel? You're a
in a good
legend.
way. If it's
Yeah.
in a good way, it's good.
Right on. So you teach English, which ties into our next question perfectly. Since, of course, Old Capital does sponsor our featured artists each week. What have you been reading?
Well, honestly, right now I've been reading a lot of academic papers about
Mm,
education, but I always just actually I think I flipped through like some books of poetry sometimes because it's
mm.
short, intimate reads. Like the other day I was reading Paul Celan, like one of my favorite poems by him. I've been reading a lot of poems about um like death, which I think is
Mm,
appropriate with what's going on right now, like different types of death.
mm.
Also Brenda Hillman, Death Tractates. I've been kind of just like flipping through her collection.
Very nice. And have you written anything since this has started?
I have, and it's actually been for the same purpose. I feel like my biggest, before quarantine, I always do this. I decided, oh, I'm not going to make anything ever again. I'm just going to give up my being an artist. And I always do, but then, I end up making something anyway. So it's like this weird struggle with like being in the process of creating and trying to not let the identity of being the person who makes things like get in the way of that.
Mhm.
But my students have been a really important part of my creative life and my personal and emotional well-being in this time. So I wrote something for them to share with them so that they could share their own creative writing projects, and it's the first thing I had written in a long time, and that kind of got me into a space where I wanted to start making more things for myself. So yeah, I guess a little bit most, but now that I have an audience, like, okay, my students are my audience. I need to make something interesting for them.
And it sounds like the creative drive for you. It sounds like you've recognized a pattern where ultimately it's involuntary. Like you can try to shrug it off, um, but you end up doing it inevitably. Is that a comfort or a curse or both at different times under different sets of circumstances?
Yeah, I think you nailed it with both at different
Mm,
times, at a different set of circumstances. But I think like it's weird. Like I was talking to my friend, the more I start to think of myself, like there was a time where I really thought of myself as a poet because I pursued it really seriously. Like I went to school and studied poetry like really intensely for 2 years, and I was like, okay, I'm a poet, I need to make poetry now. But that just like kind of shattered, and it just made me not want to write poetry anymore. And that's how I got into music, because it's a different medium, it's something I'm new at, it's something I'm like, honestly, like I'm a very incompetent musician, but I think I have a certain willingness to be vulnerable and to try to be authentic that, you know, sometimes resonates with people. And it's interesting to me every now and then. So, and it's like a good um cathartic process, I guess. But when I think of myself as being like either an artist or a musician or a painter, I don't produce very much. And as soon as I decide, oh, I'm never going to do that again, that's when I produce the most. So,
Mm. So it's not about the identity as much as it is about like the work itself.
yeah, for sure. And I think the identity gets in the way because then it puts on this pressure, and it makes me feel like I have to make something for other people instead of just like being myself and letting that be whatever it needs to look like.
Mm. So this Friday, you'll be playing 3 songs. Do you have any previews or anything you'd like to tantalize our viewers with as they look forward to this upcoming open mic?
Oh, I mean, they can check out my YouTube. I do have a song, the song that I wrote for my students up there, which it's called Corona Blues, which isn't something, it's like what a gross title, but it was like to try to get my students to think about, oh, like how can I connect this to the COVID experience.
Mm-hmm.
um I also have I have a tiny desk concert that's really terrible. Like it's horrible. The sound quality's so bad, and I didn't realize how bad it sounded. But you know, I like that song. It's an important song to me. So they, you know, they can check that out. I have like a few things up on YouTube that they can look for under my name, Monique Rose, if they want a little preview.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll be sure to put that in all the info that we put up there and everything. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm looking forward to seeing you this upcoming Friday. And I know everyone else who's watching is as well. Thank you for sharing with us.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
See you next time.